blockchain has a problem. It's difficult to use. And the technology has not been abstracted away, a way that is meaningful enough to get people to use it in the same way that Web2 companies have approached these environments. So with that said, I think we are at a point now with agentic technologies where we can start to abstract away a lot of the technological complexity underlying blockchain.
Welcome to another compelling episode of World Ledger with Coco Kee. This is your gateway to fresh global perspectives and insightful discussions. Whether you're a curious mind, a global citizen, or a lifelong learner, you're in the right place to discover how blockchain innovation is shaping the world beyond your borders. Everything on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It represents personal views and opinions and does not constitute investment or financial advice or recommendation.
I'm happy we can do this conversation. I've been closely watching AI's development and thinking about the role Web3 and blockchain can play. Look forward to our conversation. Thank you for joining. Please share your background and your responsibilities at Autonomys Network.
Yeah, I'm the head of product at Autonomys. I handle everything from the strategic angle of how we're going to execute AI and Web3 strategy, all the way to the execution of that and what the actual products and integrations will look like that will allow us to have a way forward in a defensible and scalable manner. Very much a holistic function that I do here at the company. As for me, I've been in the crypto space for a very long time. It's been about 12, 13 years now. Got into Bitcoin around 2013 and never looked back. It was just the coolest technology and the most controversial at the time, also kind of counterculture. So I was attracted to the industry. But there's no companies back then that were doing anything in Web3. So I went ahead and worked at Amazon, One Medical Group. So I've been part of a lot of larger companies where I worked in design, process engineering, and the product functions, also in AI. About 12 years of experience in both Web3 and AI.
You have a long history. You're a veteran.
Yeah.
Wow, you must have got into this industry since you were 13. You look so young.
No, I'm so much older than I look. I got into the industry actually during graduate school. It was during New York Science Week. I was a graduate student at NYU, and a visiting research scientist from CERN leaned over to me very randomly and said, "Hey, do you mine Bitcoin?" And I said, "No, should I?" He's like, "Yeah, you should. Like, it's kind of cool, right?" And I was like, "I guess." And so he showed me how to mine. And then I got into this like black hole of crypto and ended up doing my graduate thesis on decentralized healthcare systems. Definitely had a serendipitous moment that got me into the space. It was during grad school. I wish it was when I was 13, but no.
At that time, you didn't suspect it was a scam?
Okay, story time. I mined a lot of crypto during my university days, and I didn't know if it was going to be something or it wasn't going to be something. Everyone I asked told me that it wasn't going to be anything. So I threw that computer away because at the program I went to, typically what you do is you donate your computer and all of your hardware to the next class to hack on. And that computer had a hard drive with a lot of Bitcoin on it. But everyone told me it's not going to be anything. I went with the flow, regrettably.
New things look scammy on the surface, and a lot of people write them off. Some people have an open mind just like you. My basic understanding about Autonomys Network is that it's building infrastructure to serve AI 3.0. But before we talk more about Autonomys, please help me understand AI 3.0.
AI 3.0 is a term that we came up with, and it was really inspired by this idea of how there's like Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and Web 3.0. In the same light, we look at AI in similar phases. So AI 1.0 was essentially the machine learning phase, where there's centralized machine learning, and we're building up all of the filtered data sets that are being used today to do all kinds of cool generative AI things. AI 2.0 is the generative AI aspect of it. And that's where we are today. We're seeing people using GPTs or other kinds of applications powered by that data aggregated through machine learning. AI 3.0 is the collaboration between humans and AI and what that might look like in the future. Today, what we're experiencing, in my opinion, is something more akin to passive unconscious adoption. And that's where a lot of people are starting to interact with AI without really even knowing that they are. In fact, there was a study recently that said people actually like AI more the less they know about it. It's this manifestation that's just happening, whether we're AI 3.0 in whatever sense we want to think about it, is going to happen one way or another. We just want to be the ones to define it in a way that is more human-centered. That's what we envision as AI 3.0.
One of the components for AI 3.0 is human-centric. You help humans create AI agents. These agents will collaborate between themselves and also can collaborate with business, with the real world.
AI is a complicated industry and there's a bit to unpack. I'll start by saying that, yes, we do all of those things, but in a layered approach. If you look at AI, there's the interaction element, which is the agents. Who knows what people will use agents for? That's still being articulated and developed. But at the end of the day, if we think about first principles and the things that will change and won't change, the part that won't change is the data. Everything's going to be fueled by data in some way, shape, or form. I like to think about it in essentially 3 layers. The first layer is data at rest, which is where we are really decentralizing the storage of that data and allowing a lot of user participation via our DePIN network, which is a lot of people contributing to the security of our network. And the byproduct of that security is storage. We have that as the foundational layer. The second layer of that is having data in flight, like targeting data in flight. When an agent needs to utilize data, how can we maintain security in that aspect? Typical protocols today, like HTTPS, et cetera, kind of satisfies that requirement, less of a worry for us. But then there's also compute and inference, which is the third layer of the stack. That is where we're using TEEs to make sure we have confidential compute and attestation so that the entire stack from data at rest, data in flight, and data in compute is all protected and directionally focused on Web3. So that's essentially what we're working on in terms of the full stack. And what we've built today is the storage part of it.
AI 3.0 is different from current AI products. Most of the AI products are offered through centralized platforms and controlled by big tech. The potential of having a small number of big players with deep pocket dominating AI industry, just like what has happened to internet, is very concerning to me. So how do you think Web3 enabled AI can compete with AI controlled by big tech? Your philosophy or vision is something different from the AI controlled by the big tech.
Great
It's
question.
a packed question.
It's fantastic. And I think it's important to talk about these things because I think what we're starting to see now is this convergence of a lot of ideas, a lot of different industries. Most people don't know what is going to happen. And I don't know what's going to happen either. But what you said is correct. We're repeating the same thing that happened when the Googles and Microsofts of the world started getting involved with social media or advertising. All that data is now being used to sell people things without their consent. The reason people are so quick to use these big box services that are centralized is because they've really emphasized user experience and made it very easy for someone to be onboarded. Blockchain has a problem. It's difficult to use. And the technology has not been abstracted away, a way that is meaningful enough to get people to use it in the same way that Web2 companies have approached these environments. So with that said, I think we are at a point now with agentic technologies where we can start to abstract away a lot of the technological complexity underlying blockchain. A lot of the requirements, you have to remember your seed phrase or type in this really long thing. Those things can be abstracted away now, and it'll allow for us and a lot of people that are interested but not able to participate because of the technical requirements we impose on them to onboard into Web3. I think once they start to do that and find it easy, we can start to compete because you'll see, companies like OpenAI, especially after the DeepSeek moment, they said they're going to open source their next model. That's interesting, but the computation, decision-making behind that model is still not transparent. And so I think it's going to go in phases. And I think that we can compete, but it's going to have to start with fundamentally becoming as easy as a GPT and then showing people this is the difference between you using OpenAI versus this Web3 powered one. where you can see all the decision making. You don't have to worry about someone else looking at the computation that was conducted. It's all completely transparent and available to you. So I think there's going to be a moment where there's that distinguishing factor to separate us from all the centralized services.
Let's go back to autonomous because we can continue this conversation
Yeah.
without even touching on what autonomous is about. Please help me understand what about autonomous and how they can help achieve the mission of AI 3.0. For example, you can focus on something simple. When autonomous was created, for example, its mission, the development roadmap, what are you focusing on at this moment to deliver?
Great question. The first thing for people to understand is they can participate today by becoming a farmer. We have software that you can download to your computer, and that allows anyone to participate within our data storage network. Someone, if they have latent space on their hard drives, our software will allow them to contribute that space to our network to bolster our security. That storage space, in turn, will also be used to build up the storage network itself. That's available today and something anyone can participate in. You are incentivized to participate in it. That's the first step in getting involved with not only our network, but this future of AI 3.0. Now, we've solved for the trilemma, which, if you're not familiar, it's been an age-old problem, but it's taking a blockchain and making sure that it's secure, scalable, without compromising decentralization all at the same time. It's very, very difficult to accomplish, but I think that is something that fundamentally needed to be accomplished in order to enable AI use cases in the future. And so we've done that. And by doing that, we've built the foundation necessary to support AI 3.0. The important things, and I think this is more from a use case standpoint, is just for people to be aware that what AI is today in our world is not what it's going to be 6 months from now. It's not what it's going to be 2 years from now. There's going to be billions and billions of agents. There's going to be billions and billions of interactions. And that means a lot of data is going to be in flight, at rest, and in compute. That's a problem. That's not only a problem for Web3, but it's a problem for centralized AI as well. Most other blockchains, I would say every other blockchain, are not inherently designed to support what I would call AI scale. So if you look at Solana, a lot of people are trying to build AI on Solana, Ethereum, et cetera. Because those chains were not designed to fundamentally support the amount of data that AI will require, they're going to have bottlenecks. I mean, everyone always talks about the gas fees. It's going to get very, very expensive if there's billions of agents operating on the Ethereum network. Solana also, when there's a lot of transaction volume, gets congested. And sometimes it just stops. You can't send Solana from one wallet to another because the data that they're looking at is different. It's transaction data, not actual agentic data that needs to be filtered, used. We don't have that problem. When we scale to billions of agents, if you're running an agent on Autonomous, we are able to maintain the throughput of data while keeping costs low all at the same time. To store 1 gigabyte of data on Ethereum would cost something like $3 million. Solana, it's about $680,000 to store a gigabyte of data fully on chain. The compromise that companies end up making is they will go plug into AWS or a Web2 service. But if you do that, you've compromised this Web3 ethos that we're supposed to have. In a roundabout way, I would say Autonomous is uncompromisingly Web3 focused when it comes to supporting AI use cases. At scale, we will not compromise our decentralization, security, or scalability. You'll be able to have all the same use cases fully on chain, Web3 centric, in the vision of what Satoshi Nakamoto thought cryptocurrency and blockchain is supposed to be. If anyone wants to participate in AI 3.0 and not make any compromises, then Autonomous is the place for them to do it. We talked about the general public participating as a farmer. The next phase is building our ecosystem with developers. And through partnerships, there's a lot of cool things we're doing with Fauna, Ringfence, and other notable companies in the space to bring some of these use cases to life. And those are also important because they share a similar ethos as us in terms of being decentralized and having data be private and user owned. And so altogether, I think we can make something very special.
I have a couple of questions and also want to zoom in on some of the things you just talked about. The first is, what is farmer? Can you explain?
Yeah. So a farmer is the equivalent of what a miner would be in another chain. It's the most fundamental layer of our blockchain. And the farmer is contributing storage and being incentivized in the same way a miner would be incentivized to run a GPU server to mine Ethereum or something like that. Essentially, our version of mining.
Thank you. And I want to zoom in on another thing that is so many chains claim they try to solve the challenges of trilemma, but most of them only achieve two out of the three. What is your secret solution to achieve three at the same time?
That is a great question. Fundamentally, we are focused on security. When a farmer, they're not really contributing the storage from their hard drive. What they're contributing is security. The byproduct of that is the storage. So that's one aspect of it, maintaining security at all costs. We will never compromise the security of the network. And we can do that thanks to the massive distributed farming network we built. That took a long time. That will lead me into talking about decentralization. How do you not compromise decentralization? Number one, you have to build up that base of farmers, which we've done. It's difficult. Most other chains are not as decentralized as we are. That's something that just takes time, effort, a lot of community building. But then we get to the scalability part. And that's what ties together the decentralization and the security aspects. The way that our consensus mechanism has been designed is inherently favorable to solving for the trilemma and maintaining that solution through whatever use cases we have in the future. The way that the algorithm works, it allows us to scale in a manner where, as long as we add farmers, the security and the decentralization do not get compromised at all. Other chains are not able to do it in the same way. They might have a node where there's 100 farmers on a node. There's another node with another 100 farmers and another node with another 100 farmers. In order for them to achieve consensus, they can do that in one node, but then you would only have to attack 33% of the nodes, if I remember correctly, to compromise the security of that network. In our case, the consensus mechanism is the full decentralized loop of everyone participating. So you would have to compromise 51% of every single farmer. Mathematically, that's extremely difficult to do. In that sense, we're unique in how we have designed the consensus mechanism from the ground up to support the solution for the trilemma.
My understanding is the reason that Autonomous is able to handle lots of storage, unlike other chains, which have to turn to centralized cloud solutions every now and then, is because you have enough farmers. They are able to provide distributed storage solutions for Autonomous.
That is absolutely part of it. The farmers are absolutely important to us. That storage is essentially the foundation of everything. When we get to the actual data storage part, there's some fancy stuff that we do there as well that helps us do this. We have over 500 petabytes of storage, which is more than enough for all of our AI use cases. Whenever someone stores data on chain, it's first replicated millions of times. Most recently, it was like 5 million. If you were to put a JPEG on chain, it would be replicated 5 million times. We use something called erasure coding to break that up in teeny tiny pieces and then distribute it across all the nodes within all the farming nodes that exist today. And so that also makes sure that everything is secure because no one can get the data easily unless you have the keys to reconstruct those pieces. And then those pieces are always moving through the entire farming network, which enhances the security even more. We have a polynomial, getting a little mathematical here. There's an algorithm that we use to determine all this stuff. The polynomial, it only needs certain points to be able to reconstruct the whole data. So even if half the farmers go down or a whole swath of farmers go down, your data is not lost. It's still recoverable no matter what. It makes us very resilient in that aspect. A lot of mechanisms have been designed over time to make sure that we are solving not just for the trilemma on the surface, but for all these interesting problems that will come up when there's a massive amount of AI on chain operating simultaneously so that we don't ever have to compromise it. So no one ever has to say, oh, well, I guess we'll just use AWS this time. We don't want them to say that. And so, yeah, there's some stuff that's been designed that's technologically unique.
Up to this moment, do you have the mainnet launched or still at the testnet?
Yeah, so our mainnet launch phase 2 is coming up. We did have a soft mainnet launch a few months ago that we're testing and making sure like everything works, but we want to have all of the typically expected things ready to go, like staking, bridging, as well as exchange listings for our token. We're working on all of those things to lead up to a launch in the next 60 days.
Mhm. At this moment, you are building out your farmers network to have enough scale to support the AI project on your infrastructure. Are you ready to bring on AI agent projects, or you are still developing your infrastructure?
I would say the infrastructure is complete. We have enough farmers. We have plenty of supply. We are very focused on the demand side of things. And so we already have agents running on our network. There's a lot of XBots, and we're working with some of our partners to do other cool agentic releases with Secret Network and Bana. Those are coming up. But those experiences exist today. We're already starting to build the ecosystem, and we're less concerned about getting more storage and more space. We're building out more infra at this point from a foundational level. That's ready to go. Building out the rest of the ecosystem will allow us to observe new problems, new use cases, and things like that. And what we're doing is being very observant and making sure that we are always staying ahead. One example of that would be the usage of MCP. MCP is like a USB plug for all of the technologies that we have running on the Autonomous Network. With MCP, we can allow any application such as Claude or ChatGPT to easily connect to AutoDrive. And then anyone using Claude, anything that they're doing will automatically be stored permanently within our storage network. Those things are possible today. We are just going after, whoever is interested in utilizing those things with full force. Getting that traction and getting that ecosystem built out is our primary focus because we're ready.
One question, why do people building on Claude will use Autonomous?
It's going to come back to the ethos that I talked about before. Claude is centralized. When you go interact with Claude and ask it a bunch of questions or do anything, what happens to that data? It's stored somewhere, but it's not necessarily clear where that is. But if you plug into the Autonomous DSN while you're using Claude through our MCP, you know where it is, and it's all transparent and publicly verifiable. It gives you that layer of confidence, at least to the people that I've talked to. It gives them a lot of confidence that the interactions they are having can be verified later and can be fact-checked, because who knows what the data will be used for in the future by Claude. In this way, you start to get some ownership over your interactions with Claude.
I want to learn more, because that is always a question back in my mind when I use ChatGPT and other AI. Where my data is it going? Does GPT support this kind of diverting data to
Yeah,
Autonomous?
MCP makes things very simple. The hard part was building the storage aspect of it, the layer one that we have built. With the foundation built, what are all of the different things we can plug in? That's the first question we ask. MCP today allows any user with Claude Desktop on their computer to simply go in and edit a JSON file, and that's it. I still think that's too complicated. Eventually, we would have to make an interface that makes it even easier. Today, you just edit the JSON file in the Claude folder on your computer, and it's done. It'll start automatically storing those interactions, because the interactions that happen on your computer are yours. They don't belong to Anthropic. You should have ownership and agency over that information. Claude will also have that information, but now you get to have a copy of it that's yours and always retrievable and stored for you permanently. That's essentially how it works today. I always think anything can be easier. And so eventually having some sort of plugin or maybe even a piece of software that can automatically show you all the different things on your computer that you can connect to the DSN through MCP would be a great thing to build out. And I don't know, that might be something we build in-house, or maybe another cool ecosystem project wants to build that, which we would be very happy about. But today it's just as simple as editing a JSON file.
Good to know. I definitely want to explore that. So, who are the key users on your platform for data storage and for AI agent development? Are they individuals or institutions?
Right now, it's going to be a number of individuals who we've approached or they've found the network autonomously. They're just builders and explorers. Right now, we're in a phase where we're really exploring what these technologies can do. We're excited to have people using our Agentic framework or our SDK to start building and trying out some experiences. We get a lot of valuable feedback from those people as well. It's really the ecosystem partners where we're getting a lot of that building happening now. Some of it's still in its infancy. There are groups of people at these other companies that want to utilize agents and do things with their data. We've got plugs, meaning our documentation or auto drive functionalities are within their docs as a means of storing their data. They can use us to maintain decentralization as they build agentic experiences themselves. Those use cases and users are all coming from our ecosystem partners. I'm most excited about that because we can't do it alone, right? If we're data slash agent slash trilemma experts, there's other companies that are working on federated learning models. Companies like Vana are working on user-owned data. Bringing all those things together has a synergistic effect on achieving AI 3.0. Individual builders, fantastic. And also tapping into users through our partners and working together with them to execute on joint roadmaps. Extremely exciting.
Your strategy through partnership to bring more users to your platform is the most productive way?
I would say in the beginning, absolutely. When I talk to a lot of our partners, they have the same concerns and they're experiencing a lot of the same challenges that we face in trying to bring a very fast moving industry and Web3 together. I mean, it's almost an honor to work with a lot of these partners with a like-minded approach to solve these problems and tackle them together because it can get pretty complicated. Investing in our partnerships and those ecosystems is very important.
This one thing that I read on the white paper, and I don't know whether your platform has been working on that, is to compensate the data owners who contribute. In the end, AI is all about data. I don't know whether that is still something that your platform is working on or part of your future plan.
It's part of the future plan. That's a pretty difficult problem to solve. That's another case where our partnerships are very important to us because there are companies that are very specifically focused on user-owned data. But the incentivization model around that, I don't think anyone's really figured that out yet. It's to be seen how that incentivization will occur because there has to be multiple layers and mechanisms in place to not only trace and track who is using your data, but the real difficult part is how do you value that data? I don't know the tweets that I made, are they worth 50 cents compared to the tweets that you made last week? Maybe those are worth like $3. Who decides that? And how do you know? I think that's something that's going to be very evolving. And the only way we can really figure those things out is to keep moving forward and make sure that we're observing things, do a lot of that user research in real time and understand the best direction. I like to say that I'm in the jungle. We're always in the jungle when we're doing this kind of stuff. You have to be on your toes and be ready to find some insight from anywhere to solve those kind of problems. It's definitely something we're working on and thinking about. That is also something that will come through our partnerships as well, because they're thinking about those things as well.
Maybe an ignorant question, but I have been thinking about that for a while. Will there be a time when we exhaust all the data while developing AI, and then the scarcity of data will drive up the cost and make data less accessible, more expensive for data agent creation or development or other AI product that only bigger players can afford to work on? That is just something I've been wondering for a while.
I think that's something I've been wondering about as well. We do know from research that data is running out. We will run out of the publicly available data that is being utilized by modern day LLMs by 2028. It's very close. Once that data has been exhausted, the LLMs will stop evolving and they won't be getting any smarter. The only way to make them smarter is for them to have access to private data or new data sets. The creation of those data sets is very important. I think that is starting to happen. A lot of these agent interactions that are being stored on chain the partnerships we have and the builders that are going to come and build, that's going to create new data sets that can be utilized to further advance the rest of the industry. That said, the cost of everything is going to zero. If you look at history in general, what costs thousands and thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of years ago, a lot of those things you can do today at almost no cost. And so as that's happening, it will increase participation, which will also allow more data to be stored and created on chain. It's this convergence. And I think we're going to hit this exponential part of the curve where a lot of new data is created. I don't think everything will shut down when the LLMs stop getting access to the data that's currently available. But I think there will be some small hiccups, and that will make people more aware of how their data can help contribute to the further advancement of AI. So I think it is something complex because, like you said, there's all these big players and they have a lot of money. But once open source models and decentralized models start performing just as well as GPT or something that Anthropic would create, it's the same thing. Eventually, the cost of everything is going to zero. Eventually, all models will perform pretty similarly. When that happens, the way we think about these things changes a lot. Producing data will become easier and allow us to combat that.
For your project, what would be your most desired projects or developers that you want to bring on board? Or what is the biggest hurdle at this moment for you to convince those projects and developers to come on board?
Agentic frameworks such as Eliza, they've been in the space for a long time. Developers, when they see something cool, they're going to try it. Once someone is embedded into a framework or another ecosystem, it becomes more difficult for them to switch over. I would say that any builder or company looking at agentic technologies and really believes the same things that we believe, which is in order for us to benefit from AI, we have to set it free. What I mean by that is AI and agents in general, they don't have the same limitations that people do. And so if we want to benefit from AI and agents, we have to let it utilize its best aspects 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But in order to do that, we have to trust it because we would never let it just run rampant without some degree of trust. Autonomous enables that trust. All the interactions that an agent makes that you would build on Autonomous, any of the agentic experiences or AI experiences that you would build, especially with MCP, all those interactions are stored on Autonomous, verifiable, auditable. So you always know what kind of a decision and the decision-making path that an agent made in terms of getting to a certain outcome or an output. If you believe that is important, then you should come build on us because that's the one place where we are not compromising at all, and we never will.
Is it difficult to build a platform that enables verification of agents? I totally believe that verifiable agents are very important.
Absolutely. What's funny about Web3 is there's a lot of similar roadmaps out there. But when you get to the brass tacks and see what is actually functional and operating today, there's very few companies that you can actually do that on. We're one of those companies. The difficult part is kind of behind us now. That was building the foundation, our consensus mechanism. It took a long time. Getting decentralized takes a very long time. Making sure you have scalability of your protocol takes a long time. And that's live. It's ready to go. Someone can build testnet applications right away if they wanted to. The verifiability of the agents that would be running on our network comes with two caveats. Number one, the computation has to be verifiable and the code that agent is running has to be verifiable. We're working on that with companies like Secret Network and Fallout to make sure that we have a way of doing attestation of the agent. So you know that the output from private computation is exactly as it was intended because the code was verified. So that's the verifiability of the agents in the compute layer. But then if the underlying data that agent was using is not verifiable, then you kind of break the chain. Our foundation that we built empowers that. The verifiability of the data on chain is that aspect that also exists. There's no company today, aside from Autonomous, that is doing it on all those three levels that I had talked about. But we have that and it's functional. That's why I think we can compete very well.
My last question. Autonomous is built on the assumption that AI will evolve into AI 3.0, decentralized, agentic. I can be more excited about that. However, let me play devil's advocate. To me, AI is inherently centralized. For AI to thrive, you need massive data feed. On the other hand, Web3 blockchain is all about decentralization, data privacy, and individual ownership. So my concern is the centralized AI will continue to dominate. I don't see the match of each other. And I'm not sure about the marriage of the two. Is this just a group of people's wishful thinking, or it is already happening?
I think it's already happening. And I work at a Web3 company. There's probably some inherent bias in what I'm about to say, but hopefully I can logically communicate this so that it's understandable. If you look at the world today, if you look at the governments today, everyone's talking about cryptocurrencies and they're talking about Web3. It's inevitable that IRAs, institutions, et cetera, will all start participating in digital currencies more and more than they already do today. That said, for an agent or AI to be fully autonomous, we want to have the full benefits of AI. And I believe that to get those full benefits, we have to let agents be autonomous. An autonomous agent isn't going to sign up for AWS. It's not going to go open a bank account. We cannot expect AI to function at its fullest by using things built for humans. It just doesn't work. AI is outcome driven. It's ones and zeros. It's trying to find the fastest, most logical path possible to achieving its goal. Digital currencies, blockchain, Web3. I think it's the only thing that can help AI achieve this vision of AI 3.0, this freedom that it needs to be able to give us all the benefits that humans want. That said, we need to be able to trust it and verify it, which is what Autonomous is also working on. And so you have those aspects. If we look at all of those different things, it goes all the way back to what we talked about at the very beginning of this conversation, which is abstracting away complexity. Web3 is more than crypto. There's a lot of different things that are happening. I think one of the best examples of bringing people in through abstraction to the Web3 space is Web3 gaming. There's games that are fun, whether or not they have Web3 behind them, but by playing those games, you're seeing a massive influx of brand new Web3 users. They're learning about what NFTs are, what wallets can do, what permissionless means. I think what we're going to see is further abstraction of the complexity through affordances, meaning people are already used to doing certain things. Why not fitting it to those things and making Web3 very invisible? MCP with Claude is another example. As those things start happening, I think we will start to get to a place where it becomes very natural for people to be interacting with Web3. I would also say that Web3 users are very open to AI compared to the general population. We're the experimenters, right? Like meme coins, we don't care. There's FOMO and all of this kind of stuff. Those are the early adopters in the space. But with everything that I'm seeing from a regulatory standpoint, from an institutional standpoint, and from a broader industry standpoint, where pretty much every company will be using AI in some way, shape, or form within the next year. It's all going to be embedded. So I'm seeing this convergence that's going to allow for that next billion users to come in. They're going to come in through Web 2 experiences until Web 3 experiences catch up. But AI agents are going to help abstract away the complexity as a barrier to entry and allow people to start interacting more and more. The sky's the limit. It'll turn into incentives. And no Web 2 company is going to be able to incentivize a person the way a Web 3 company will. It's just not the way it works. I see a very bright future. It's just getting through that journey is a little tough and challenging at times. But we're all directionally correct, I think, between us and other companies in the space to get to that point. And it's just how quickly can we start to abstract things away? How quickly can we bring incentives to people that they appreciate and create that interoperability between Web 2 and Web 3 to enhance the onboarding experience for humans, agents, and AI.
You totally convinced me. I agree. AI and Web3 blockchain, they are made for each other. You mentioned that AI can help abstract away the complexity of blockchain and Web3. Web3 can definitely help AI, for example, providing incentives and providing many tools. I'm very excited. It would take some time, but I'm sure we'll get there.
And I think the catalyst moment is coming. It's going to surprise everyone, I think, but it's coming.
Just as 2013, when you were approached, someone just murmured to you, "Hey, do you mind Bitcoin?"
Yeah,
You couldn't imagine what would happen for Bitcoin 10 years down the road. See where we are.
absolutely. Culture drives innovation in design. It's usually not the other way around. And so, as we see culture shift, we're in a good spot to be inspired by it. I think we're doing the right thing. The serendipity of it all is really exciting.
It's wonderful to have people like you with the vision and keep building. Such a wonderful conversation. Thank you for the time.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure meeting you today.
Thank you for listening. Your support means the world to me. Share this episode with friends and family, and don't miss out on my newsletter, worldledger.substack.com, for the latest updates. See you next time. Bye-bye.